the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, other presidential aides seated here, our distinguished guests from the NMDPRA, my colleagues, gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. It's my pleasure this day to welcome all of us to another session of Meet the Press. Today we will be having the CEO of the NMDPRA, and we all know that following the signing into law of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, in August 2021, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, was created to subsume the downstream functions of the Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Authority, PPPRA, the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, and the Petroleum Equalization Fund, PEF. This agency is, or they call it the authority, is the midstream and downstream technical and commercial regulator of the oil and gas industry. When the CEO comes to brief, he will expatiate more about what they do and what the authority impacts the oil and gas industry. So this day, we're going to have Engineer Farouk Ahmed. He's the Chief Executive Officer, as I said, of the NMDPRA. And you might want to know that Engineer Ahmed, before his appointment to head this authority, has held several senior positions spanning over 34 years in his professional career in the oil and gas industry. Without wasting too much time, I'm going to invite now the CEO of the NMDPRA to talk to us about some of the issues that we've been hearing concerning the oil and gas industry, after which normally we will take questions from him. He said? Yes. He is here in case maybe he might want to defer some of the questions to his staff. By his immediate left is Mr. Ogugo Ukoha. He's the Executive Director in charge of Distribution Systems, Storage and Retailing Infrastructure. You're welcome. By sitting next to him is Dr. Mustafa Lamode, right? Oh, Lamode is on. Who is he? What's his name? Okay. Engineer Francis Ogare is the Executive Director in charge of hydrocarbon processing plants, installations, and transportation infrastructure. Others, as I said, Dr. Mustafa Lamode is the Executive Director in charge of health, safety, environment, and community. We also have Bashir Sadiq is the Executive Director in charge of corporate services and administration. Dr. Joseph Tolorunse is the Authority Secretary and the Legal Advisor. Ngozi Nwankwo, Deputy Director in charge of Liquid, is also here. And last but not the least, Ayuba Zaka Steve is the Director in the Office of the Chief Executive Officer of the Authority. At this point, I would like to invite the Authority CEO to please step forward, speak to Nigerians, because as we talk now, there are people watching us online. They might also come up with some questions after your presentation. Good day, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting us to come and discuss part of our operations and the industry in general as pertains to mid and downstream subsector of the petroleum industry. Like has been said earlier, NMDPRA is Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, which is an offshoot of the merger of three legacy agencies. The mid and downstream section of Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, Petroleum Products Equalization, PEP, Petroleum Equalization Management Board, that's PEP-MB, merged into the current institution. So part of our functions, as earlier said, is technical and commercial regulator of the mid and downstream subsector of the oil industry. So we look at the global trend first. I have a presentation to make, and then maybe if you take note of the slides, you can refer to the slide. If you have any question, then we'll try to answer your questions as best as we could. But before we start, we'll just look at the current global situation as pertains to the oil industry. The oil industry generally is a bit dynamic in the sense that the pricing, the demand supply of crude oil and petroleum products is not static. It all depends on the demand region, areas, productions, whether it is gas or crude oil, and the derivatives. But recently, like we all know, the global oil market, not only oil market, but the global economy has been a bit volatile in the sense of the new American government's policy of tariffing, not only targeted at China, but the whole countries across the world. And most importantly, what is even destabilizing the market is inconsistencies in the way President Trump also sends his policies. Move today, tomorrow he reverses. So it's been difficult to predict, what the next level. So for investors and traders in not only oil and gas industry, but in general economy of the world, moving left and right to the extent that some of them are actually doing like a day's trade. That means you do your trading today, you close by end of today, because you never know what tomorrow's policy will drive the market into. So the crude oil and petroleum products market continues to have a downward trajectory because of these inconsistencies and policies of the government of the United States. And the key aspect of it is the aspiration of the American president to ensure that the crude oil pricing or the oil price has come down to maybe crude oil price to come down below $50 a barrel. And that's why he encourages more exploration in his country. So having that at the back of mind, of course, is how does it relate to our own local industry, both in terms of crude oil pricing, product pricing, demand, and supply. Obviously, we see a downward trajectory, like I said earlier, in terms of products pricing and crude oil pricing. So we're happy, of course, as consumers of the derivatives of product pricing that the price is coming low. But when we look at it globally as a nation, it's not good for our economy because our revenue inflow is also impacted. If the crude oil price, like what happened previous week, Fridays ago, where it dropped in one day from about $74, $73 a barrel to $60, you can see that in terms of our production of crude oil, our revenue is impacted severely. So you look at the revenue inflow into the country, we're compounded with the problem of vandalism and illegal bunkering and the low production, because recently we just had a report from OPEC that Nigerian production has come down to about 1.4 million barrels a day. And then if we lose the price by $10, so you can see the negative impact to our economy, to our natural reserves, as well as, of course, the strength of our naira. But again, when you look at the products market, we're happy to say, oh, the price is coming down. So this volatility will continue because as recent as yesterday, when President Trump again exempted some sectors from tariff, particularly to China, like in terms of vehicular tariffing, you saw the market again started to go up. So this is how it will continue to show, just to give you a general perspective of the oil industry. That is what is shown on the chart. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but what it shows is exactly what I'm saying, because the slide is showing the pricing trend. You know, when you look at the left side, let's say October 24th, 11th October, we had the crude price at, product price at 769. That is when we look at the international global price of gasoline, which translated to landing cost ex-pump in Nigeria to about like 1,000 naira, 1,085 naira. But by the time we move to the right, extreme right, as of April 9th, that gasoline price moved from, when I say October, from 769, now it moved to 614. And now the price of products in Nigeria came to about 885 naira per liter, for example, ex-pump. So you can see the difference between the two timings. So up and down, up and down. So as of the 9th of April, the gasoline price, international price is 614 naira on the average, whilst the ex-pump price estimated, which is estimated open market price of petrol, is about 885 naira per liter. And the next slide shows who we are, because there are a lot of, I guess what I call misunderstanding about NMDPRA, NUPRC versus NMPC. A lot of people think NMDPRA and NUPRC are under NMPC. No, NMPC is a commercial arm of government, whilst NUPRC is the technical and commercial regulator of upstream operations, whilst NMDPRA is the technical and commercial regulator of mid and downstream sector. So obviously, we don't have anything in terms of relationship, of working relationship with NMPC, other than that we regulate NMPC, both upstream of NMPC, midstream of NMPC, and downstream of NMPC. So next slide shows, again, when we take out NMDPRA itself, we look mid and downstream, we can see where we have what part of the industry do we oversight. Refineries, gas processing plants, petrochemicals, LNG, FLNG, that's floating LNG, CNG, LPG, lubricant plants, processing plants, pipelines, barges that ship that move petroleum products, imports of petroleum products, product depots, trucks that move products, industries that operate on the petroleum products, as well as retail outlets. So this is our more like a value chain where we oversight. Next slide, of course, what are the leading impacts of NMDPRA? Key activities. Improve energy security through robust local refining of crude oil and processing capacity of natural gas. So both crude oil in terms of liquids and gas in terms of gas. So we have two sections. The midstream is more like gas sector that we oversight, and then the downstream is more of the liquid side. And when I say liquid side, I mean crude oil and its derivatives, while the gas side is like natural gas and its derivatives. We enhanced access to primary energy fuel through efficient transportation network. So we also oversight the pipeline network. So for example, for those companies that produce gas and they put it on the line, we do like injection of gas. So that is what we call the network code, which is even access by all injectors into the pipeline. So we try to manage that as well. We enable market development through efficient wholesale supply and the fair, transparent pricing of gas and petroleum products. We do the pricing. Obviously, we say the market is deregulated. Gas market is regulated. Fuel, liquid market is deregulated, but we still do a pricing where you have like a benchmark pricing. And of course, this is just like a quotation of where the level of price will be. In the past, when we had subsidy, we fixed the price, and nobody goes over that price, and until government says we are reviewing the price. But now the market is fully deregulated from 29th of May 2023. So the market players now play within the framework, within the band of the market. Obviously, if there's any aberration, we have the FCC, PC, who are in charge of protecting the consumers against any price gouging or thing. We improve availability of gas and petroleum liquids across the nation through effective distribution and retail operations. So obviously, like I said, we have the pipelines that move gas. In the past, we had pipelines that move petroleum products, like through NMPC, over 5,002 kilometers of pipeline networks linking all the depots. So this is some of the things we do, and you also control other pipelines within some catchment areas. The refineries, modular refineries, as well as bigger refineries, like one of the biggest refinery we have in Nigeria, the Dangote refinery, and maybe the smallest modular refinery we have, maybe Upper Refinery that produces 2,000 barrels per day. To us, they're all refineries. They all contribute to our national energy demand and energy requirements. Next slide shows some of these refineries that we have. We have so many refinery projects, and the good thing about it is it shows that there's interest in investing in Nigerian refining. But out of that, we have like 10 key refineries that are various stages of licensing. And we broke our licensing into 3 segments. We have the license to establish, license to construct, and license to operate. And out of this, we have 10 major refineries that contribute, have installed capacity of 1,214,000 barrels per day. Out of this, of course, we have the Dangote refinery that is 650,000 barrels per day capacity when they are fully operational. And then we have the lower ones, which is, like I mentioned, most of part of the modular refineries. And in between, of course, we have like the NMPC, Warri, Port Harcourt 1 and Port Harcourt 2, as well as Kaduna refineries that are operating. So the total operating capacity of this refinery is just about 57.8% currently, which means they are not running the same, like I said, 1.2 million barrels per day, but there are various reasons why. For example, due to technical constraint or crude oil supply constraints, not because the crude is not there. Sometimes some of the refineries are located where they have to move crude maybe by truck or so. And then, of course, they have some operational or technical problem that they cannot run 100%. For example, the Port Harcourt refinery, old Port Harcourt refinery is at 60,000 barrels per day capacity, but they are not running at 100% capacity, due to maybe technical issues or due to crude oil availability. Like Dangote refinery, that is 650,000 barrels per day capacity, they're not running at 100% capacity because maybe of the technical reasons, because the project, the refinery is still in the project stage, even though they are producing and they are ramping up production. In fact, at a point, maybe they go to 400,000 barrels per day in terms of production. So it's not consistent up and down, just like other refineries. But by the time it's fully operational, they can run maybe up to 90–95% capacity, pending the supply of crude. Now, we have the same thing for gas processing plants. For gas processing, we have about 6.1 billion standard cubic feet per day of installed capacity. but only 63% of that is actually operational now due to partly infrastructure deficit, because some of these gas processing plants they have, but gas processing we don't have pipeline that linked all the network to the consumers. Just like we are working hardly, NMPC and other projects are working very hard on bringing up the AKK and of course the OB3 river crossing. And once those come on stream, you will see that the gas production and gas distribution and access to most of the industry will be very fluid. Then we have the, of course, gas distribution and then product depots. We have about 256 product depots, and only less than 50% of them are in active operations, because for whatever reasons, unfortunately in the past when there was subsidy, a lot of depots, a lot of companies came into business. But when subsidy was gone, so it became a bit time of competition, of market, everybody trying to grab market share, and which is good for the nation, because once the market is liberated, then the competition starts. Everybody's going for market share, whether they increase their price or they reduce their price in order to capture the consumer, then that is what is good for the nation. We have the choice and we have the accessibility, and the competition. That's what is very healthy. And I mean, I have to commend, of course, Mr. President for his bold stand on removing the subsidy on petroleum products, particularly on PMS. And we see now, we hardly see fuel queues in the country. Even when we had our usual end of year fuel scarcity, it never happened in 2024. And hopefully, by God's grace, it will continue to be that. We have even supply from all parts of the country. So this is a step that has been helping the economy in terms of building confidence, not only in the oil and gas industry, but also in the other, parts of the economic sectors. Well, now we'll go to the next page, page 10. We'll look at now, okay, what is it for us? We have the refineries running, we have the market liberated, and then we say there's ample supply of petroleum products. Yes. So this one, the next page is showing us the petroleum products sufficiency, which is a barometer we look at to ensure that we prevent any fuel tightness in the market. When tightness leads to maybe scarcity, and scarcity leads to panic buying, then aggravate the scarcity and see the price. So what we do here, we monitor, basis our projection of the demand, then we make sure that the supply meets the demand, so there's supply-demand balance. So if you look at the left side of those bars, we have low-poor fuel oil, which is mainly used by some industries. We have equivalent to 40 days sufficiency. So that means we are very, very healthy. For LPG, we have 9 days sufficiency currently in the country. For aviation, tower and Kero, which is ATK for airlines, we have 18 days sufficiency. If you recall, sometime last year, the year before, we had serious problem with the airliners where there was no aviation Kero, and some grounded their fleet, and some international international airlines had to go to other countries like Ghana to refuel, which was very embarrassing. But now,
It's full? Boy, it's full now.
Shall I continue? Or I go back?
It's full.
Okay, so maybe I touched it. So like I said, the automotive gas oil, we have 46 days sufficiency, which is the green bar, and the red at the bottom is premium motor spirit. We have 18 days sufficiency. Now, 18 days sufficiency is good for gas or for petrol or premium motor spirit, but where is it? Is it offshore or the vessels or onshore? So what is important, we need it onshore. We need it in the depots, in the stations. So when you look at the cycle on the right-hand side, the blue part of it is showing 13 days. What that 13 days shows, this is the volume, this is the sufficiency we have on land, either in our depots or in our petrol station. And that's why we see very healthy drive-in, drive-out at the petrol stations. While the orange one is what is on the ships, which means we have this volume equivalent to 5 days sufficiency. And how do you say 5 days? What does that mean in real number? The real number means 50, we say our sufficiency is 50 milliliters every day. So if we have 5 days, that means we have 50 milliliters times 5 days. So that's what we have. And then we have 13 days. So in total, we have 18 days sufficiency. So even if, for example, the refineries stop working, we don't import, at least this country will run for the next 18 days without, ideally, fuel queues, unless if there is a panic buying. So the next slide, it's very important we look at this slide, and this is why I will appreciate what Mr. President has done, like I said earlier, in terms of removal of subsidy. When we look at the bar on the left, this was 2015. We had, in terms of what goes out into the market, we had 48.71 million liters every day, 48.7 million liters every day in 2015. So it went in 2016, close to that, 48.9. 2017, 50, it jumped to 50.2. 2018, 53.5. 2019, 56.4. 2020, 55.6 or 0.59. And 2021, it jumped to 61.9. But look at 2022, 66.7. So between 2015 to 2022, it jumped from 48 to 66.7. But that is 2022. Now, we got into 2023. Just between January 2023 and 29th May, or let's say May 2023, we had an average of 66.9, which is 67 milliliters per day, which is very, very high. But why? First of all, the price was low. The borders were porous. The price in the neighboring countries was high, so it is easy to cross. And then even local, the Naira value was low because Naira was subsidized against the dollar, so it was a big issue there. But from that 29th May, from 1st June to December 2023, it dropped because subsidy was gone, so the market corrected itself. There was exchange rate harmonization. At the same time, there was removal of subsidy. So it dropped to 47.5. So from 66.9 to 47, lost almost by 1/3, which means almost 1/3 cannot be accounted for. Or is it that people now don't drive as much because it's more expensive? The buying power is no more there. So it's a combination of all of this. But the key issue here to drive home is at least we have removed subsidy. The nation now has excess fund for other sectors. At the same time, we are more prudent now, maybe in the way we move around. And then we harmonize more or less close at that time to the neighboring countries, so smuggling reduced. But at the same time that the Nigerian Customs Service, the Office of the National Security Advisor, and the NMDPRA had this, what called Operation Wild Wind, where borders were properly controlled. Other border towns were being raided by Nigerian Customs Service against all these big smugglers. So it was more like a deterrent. And that has also addressed part of the problem we had of cross-border trading, of cross-border smuggling. And that's why we had that 47.5 million liters per day as maybe approximately what our real demand is in the country. Now, from January to August, you remember, again, the market started to change, the exchange rate lost value, and now there was another opening of the arbitrage. So you can see that the consumption started to go up. And by that time, January to August 2024, the consumption went up to 51.8. So from 47.5 to 51.8. And again, we removed the rest of that cushion, more or less, that allowed, that warranted that. So the actual inefficiencies, I would say, were removed because subsidy was removed from 29th May. So the rest, you know, that inefficiency that was in the system was actually taken out. So from September, now we came back to fully deregulated gasoline sector. And to date, we have average about 49.43 as our more or less demand or consumption. And that's why when we said we're averaging about 50 million liters per day, when I show you the previous page to say this is our sufficiency, then we have reason to do that. So when you go to the next page, next slide, you can see that on a monthly basis, from left, which is June 2023, to 13th of April 2025, you can see on a monthly basis how this supply has been up and down, up and down. So if it's like one straight line consistent, you can say maybe this figures has to be checked. But the reality is we had the lowest of 41.6 milliliters per day, which was in September 2023, and we had the highest in May 2024 of 59.7, but the average across is 49.8 million liters per day. And that's what we believe is our national demand for gasoline. Next slide, please. So this one, going back to our refining, I've already mentioned on the left side, we have the 10 refineries that we mentioned earlier in terms of capacity of 1.124 million barrels per day. And amongst the top ones, we have that are actually operational is the Dangote Refinery, Aradale, which is a modular refinery. Dangote Refinery license status is under license to construct. So we have 3 licenses, like I said earlier. License to establish, that you want to establish, you want to build, and the license to construct, that means you can start construction. At the same time, when you finish fully, you get license to operate. But in between, of course, you can request for permits and approvals. Some of the permits of approval, it say you want to introduce hydrocarbon. That means you want to test your facility or to see that you can. So we issued some of these permits and granted rather approvals to some of these refineries. So the 2 out of the 10 refineries, we took the 6 that are actually active. So we have the Dangote Refinery, license to construct. Aradale Refinery, they have license to operate, so they're operating normally. OPAC Refinery is licensed to operate. So the Aradale Refinery is about 11,000 barrels per day refinery. OPAC Refinery, licensed to operate, is about 10,000 barrels per day refinery, design capacity. Then we have Walter Smith Petroleum and Petrochemical Limited, Refinery and Petrochemical, is 5,000 barrels per day refinery. And by the way, they are now constructing another 5,000 barrels capacity to link up to this, so they'll eventually, by end of the year, 2025, they should be running at 10,000 barrels per day. But currently, they are running at 5,000 barrels per day. They have a license to operate. We have DuPont Midstream Limited. They have license to construct. They also requested for, like Dangote Refinery, requested for approval or permit to introduce hydrocarbon. So they started producing, but then they had to shut down due to some legal issues. But again, they're operating. So Dangote Refinery, like I said, is operating as well, we all know. Then we have the Edo Refining and Petrochemical Company Limited. It's about 1,000 barrels per day refinery, which is has license to operate. Then, of course, the 7 to 10, we have Port Harcourt Refinery, the new, which is still under rehabilitation. It's 150,000 barrels per day. The Warri Refining and Petrochemical Company is 125,000 barrels. They also have a LTO, license to operate. The Kaduna Refinery is 110,000 barrels per day. They have a LTO. And the old Port Harcourt Refinery, which is 60,000 barrels per day refinery, have LTO and they're in operation. But the three other, the Warri, Port Harcourt, one new, and Kaduna are still under their rehabilitation. And we can give you the update later on the, in fact, I can give you the update on those refineries. So for Port Harcourt Refinery, in total, the two refineries combined in one, overall project progress, they're 89.3%. So 89.3% project, progress. That means very soon they will meet 100% and they'll come back on stream. But again, there's no time. I'm just giving you the status of the technical aspect of the rehabilitation. And the mechanical completion for Area 5, which is the old refinery, is 99.7%, and that's why it's running, so they almost finished that. And then the area broke down, these are all technical. Area 1, 85%, Area 2, 85%, Area 3, so PPU, so I mean, this is all technical issue. I can give it to you, but I can also pass it to you. This is Port Harcourt Refinery. Then for Warri Refinery, overall project progress is 88.9%. You know, Warri Refinery came on stream, and they ran for about 6 days. They produced gasoline and gas oil, but they had to go down and continue their project maintenance. So out of that, we believe that they are now 88.9% overall completion. But you know, when you break it into areas, you say Area 1, which is now currently operating, is 100%. We'll have Area 2, which is 91.2%, and Area 3, which is 88.9% in terms of mechanical completion. Then Kaduna Refinery overall progress is 81.1%, and we broke it down into work packages. So that's it. We believe that we've gone on. And one thing that is peculiar about Kaduna Refinery, even if the refinery is 100%, we also have to consider the pipeline, the Warri Kaduna pipeline, the state of the pipeline. So obviously, they're also looking at that, which is also a major project for them. Now we go to the next, go back to the main slide, and the next slide, if you go dig into, we see, okay, what about these refineries? So this is just a general overview about supply. So in terms of Dangote Refinery and PMS, from September when they started, they supplied about 102 million liters in September, 298 million liters in October, 580 million liters in November, 398 million liters in December, 692 million liters in January, 625 milliliters in February, 638 milliliters in March, and 238 milliliters to date in the month of April. So again, if we go further, the next slide, to make it more maybe understandable, what is that contribution, what does that mean to national demand? So if we go back to September, they added 12% of our national demand. So they supply 6.4 million liters a day out of 50, which is like 12.8% of our requirement. So if we want to go by each, but I can jump to say by January, that contribution increased to about 22%, which means, sorry, to 44 or 45%, which means by that time they gave us 22 milliliters a day. So you can see the progress from 6 milliliters a day in September to 22 milliliters a day in January. And then, of course, in February, it came slightly down from 22.5 to 22.3 milliliters, which is 44%, 44.7% of our requirement, of our national requirement. And in March, they came down again to 41%, which is 20.6 milliliters. And currently, they are 36%. They are contributing about 18 milliliters. So out of 50, they gave us 18 milliliters. So that means we have to source for the balance somewhere. Now, next slide, we look at Port Harcourt Refinery. So Port Harcourt Refinery, if we look at the total in terms of PMS, for the month of November, when they came on stream, they had a blended PMS, which is straight-run gasoline and straight-run naphtha. But what in reality, what their contribution was in terms of PMS is 150,000 liters in November, 1.3 milliliters in December, 1.35 milliliters in January, 1.4 milliliters in February, and 1.1 milliliters. So obviously, the two combined together will still not meet our national requirement. So we go to the next slide. Now we look at the Port Harcourt Refinery. So when we look at this, November, the cumulative total in the blue is gasoline, and in the red is gas oil, which means petrol and diesel. So cumulatively, in November, NMPC refinery, let's say Port Harcourt Refinery, gave us 238 million liters. No, 238 average daily, yeah. And December, 538,000. In January, it came down to 275. In February, it came down to 85,000 liters. And then diesel started from January, 247,000 liters. In February, 639,000, I didn't say million, 1,000 liters. Yes, 1,000 liters. In March, 865,000 liters. And currently, to date, 968,000 liters. So when we go to the next page, we'll look at Warri Refinery. So Warri Refinery operated for approximately 6 days. Yes? So they streamed on the 28th of December. In that period, they gave us AGO and household kerosene, like kerosene that we use, not the not ATK, but HHK. ATK is aviation turbine kero. HHK is household kerosene. So that one in December is 1.9 milliliters, was for HHK 2.8 milliliters. And in January, they gave 10 milliliters of AGO and 12 million liters of HHK before they came down. And I gave you earlier the status of the refinery. So next page, next slide. Now, this slide is something also that may answer part of the questions I raised. We saw the contribution of Dangote Refinery. We saw the contribution of NMPC Port Harcourt Refinery. And we saw, we heard the contribution of NMPC Warri Refinery. So all in all, in October, Dangote Refinery supplied 9.6 million liters of petrol. NMPC supplied 23.9 million liters of petrol. Our demand is 50. So the marketers, all the marketers' imports was 22 million liters for a total of 56 million liters. So we needed 50, but in combined, we got 56. Obviously, you say it's high, but sometimes you have a buffer. Because if we are taking everything, then we don't have anything. If there's any supply disruption, obviously we have to fall back on the buffer. So in November, NMPC came down from 23 in October to 9.6 in November, while Dangote Refinery moved from 9.6 in October to 19.3 in November, while the marketers also moved from 22 in October to 26.7 in November, for a combined total of 55.7 against our requirement for 50. Now, in December, Dangote Refinery came down. They could only supply 12.8 million liters, as against 19, which was the highest they gave in November. Whilst marketers, NMPC also more like stabilized from 9.6 in November to 9.3 in December. So marketers brought in about 29.8 in November for a combined total of 52 milliliters a day as against 50. Now in January, NMPC now starts, so now NMP is sliding down. They are trying to get away from importation, from supply. So NMPC in January supplied only 1 million liters, which is coming maybe from the refineries, whilst Dangote ramped up to 22.5 million liters, while marketers came down versus December, when in December they gave 29.8, but now the permit given to them was only for 23.2 million liters, which means as you are ramping up local production, the import permit started to go down. So we are looking at the balance. Now in February, Dangote almost came down slightly from 22.5 in January to 22.3 in February, while marketers went up a bit from 23.2 in January to 26.7 in February. NMPC now from 1.1 in January came down to 0.7, which means they're gradually out of imports, but only refinery, and then refineries also started to come down because the refineries are more like I said, producing straight-run gasoline and straight-run naphtha. And you need some blending components to blend it to PMS. Now, total for February was 49.2 against 50. So more like we're reaching that equilibrium. Of course, we're carrying forward stock from previous months. In March, Dangote Refinery came slightly from 22.3 in February to 20.6 in March, whilst marketers came down from 26.7 in February to 25.1 in March. NMPC was 0. So if you look at, to answer one of the questions that was raised in the past, when they say NMPC imported in first quarter, NMPC, when you look at it, I told you January is 1 million liters from local. That means there was no import. In February, 0.7, which is just what maybe what produced, and in March, 0. So none from the refineries, because Port Harcourt refinery that was producing these two components did not blend it to put into the market. So they are storing They are straight-run naphtha and straight-run gasoline. So they have not, in the past where they did the blending because they went to Indorama and got some blending companies, reformats, and they blended and produced it, but they didn't bring any reformats again for any blending. So NMPC was completely out. Now, so currently today, where we are today, Dangote Refinery came down average in terms of contribution to national demand to 18.3 million liters, whilst marketers is 23.3 million liters to date. I don't know what will happen by end of the month, but we are looking at that so that we issue import permit if we see there's shortage. We issue. So we look at all the refinery operation. We look at the refinery of Dangote. How are they operating? Are they operating? What are they producing? Are they producing enough? And then what is Port Harcourt Refinery doing? What is Warri Refinery doing? And then we look at, okay, how do we complement or the shortfall? Or how do we complement this? Or how do we cover the shortfall? So as of today, the import versus local production is just about 41.6 million liters a day, as against 50. But again, when I show you the earlier slide, I show you what we have the sufficiency in the country. So we are looking at the sufficiency, and we are looking at what is being produced locally and what is being imported, so that if it meets that, but once we see the sufficiency going down, there's a threshold of maybe about 14, 15 days, then we have to trigger. Either we bring more importation, or if the refineries are not producing. Otherwise, we'll have tightness in the market. So that's about. Next slide. Now, this is also an interesting slide because it shows you what the local refining are doing to us in terms of meeting part of our requirement. We look at the left side is August. In August, almost all the products, what we had in PMS was imported, and that's why it's red. From September, when Dangote Refinery started to produce and supply the market, you see green. So green is local production. So if you run through across, you can see that local production is displacing imports. So it's just natural. So we don't have to say, stop issuing license for importation, but if local refining comes up, it automatically displaces our import. And we're hoping that as we go along, we will be seeing that green and green going up, and that means local capacity is displacing importation. So once Dangote Refinery continue to ramp up production, once Port Harcourt Refinery comes up, Warri Refinery up, then we can see that green going up. And that is, again, credit to Mr. President because of the policy that he put in place to support local refining. Then the next slide, it's just giving you a general view. This should have come earlier when we were talking about global market, because this shows our landing cost in terms of open market price, which is in the middle, versus our actual pump price. But in this case, we just took a reference of NMPC price. So when we look at the NMPC price across the country, we look at Lagos. Lagos basis, this is just a snapshot of yesterday's close. So we'll look at the close of crude oil yesterday. Crude oil close, Brent close, data Brent close at $66.85 dollar per barrel, while the gasoline price and the crude oil drive some of these products. So the gasoline price was $659.75 dollar per metric ton. And when we use the exchange rate, the NFEF exchange rate from CBN of 1,604.48 naira per dollar, then we calculate to see what is supposed to be the estimated open market price. So in Lagos, it turns to be like 924.4 naira per liter when you look at the real market price. I'm not saying what anybody would tell you. NPC can say, I am cutting my price. Dangote will say, I'm cutting my price. But let's look at what the market is. Because cutting price or increasing price is just about getting market share. It's like competition, which you said is good for the industry, is good for the nation, to see competition, to see choice. to have options. But the reality on ground is this is what the estimated open market price is in Lagos for PMS. It's supposed to be 924.4, but NMPC in Lagos is selling at 925, which is almost at the market. So when we pick up Enugu, the price in Enugu based on lending costs, and when we say estimated market price, we look at the cost of transportation. Let's say from offshore Lagos, from depot in Lagos to Enugu, then you put in cost of moving that liter in a truck. So in Enugu, it should be selling at 955 naira 82 kobo. But NMP's price there is 960 naira. So about 4 naira 20 kobo higher than the actual landing cost. And when we go to Calabar, NMPC price is 960, when in reality it is 930.3 naira per liter. You go to Maiduguri. Maiduguri is 992.5 naira per liter landing, estimated open market price. NMP selling at 999. So they're almost 7 naira or 6 naira 50 kobo higher than the landing cost. So this is just to give you an idea of the pricing across the country. Next slide, please. So next slide is showing where we are today and where is the West African market. So what we did here, we looked at the cost of a liter in some West African countries, and we converted it into the current naira exchange rate to see what is the estimated cost of that in terms of naira. So when we look at our neighbors in Cameroon, a liter costs 2,156 naira. As against Nigeria, we took the average Abuja price of maybe approximately 950 naira per liter. So if in Nigeria is 950 naira per liter, Cameroon is 2,156 naira per liter. In Chad, it's 1,875 naira per liter. In Niger, it's 1,167 naira per liter. In Ghana, it's 1,581 naira per liter. And this is, we just look at the West African country. In Senegal, which is a bit further away, is 2,540 naira per liter. Some of these countries do not have refineries. Some of these countries are landlocked, so they get petrol from the coastal countries and transport it up, and you can see why it is expensive, and you can see why sometimes there is cross-border trade because of this aberration in pricing. Next slide, please. So some of the initiatives that we put together as NMDPRA in terms of operations is this local currency trading of crude and petroleum products. You know, what is that? It's enhancing the backward integration policy in downstream, which is in the law, backward integration. And then, of course, supporting investment in refinery operations. We told you how many license to operate we have, license to construct. So people are showing interest in refining because the market is liberated. And once the market is liberated, then you can see that the opportunity for investment because there's clarity and transparency in government policy. So that's it. So, and this one has in place almost 50% reduction of imports because, like I showed you, local refining is displacing the import. And of course, in terms of aviation turbine Kero, we are almost 100% satisfied locally, and we're exporting now because Engr refinery production has been able to cover our requirement. And our national requirement for automotive aviation turbine is about 3 milliliters per day, and they're producing a lot more than that, so they're exporting. In terms of gas oil, our requirement is about 14 milliliters per day, and almost 75% of that has been eliminated, so we import just about maybe 30% of that requirement to meet that obligation. Then we go to the next slide, the one after the next, please. Next one, please. So this is the gas processing capacity. Just like we did the refining capacity, also we have the gas processing capacity. And we have different facilities One is the Escravos gas to liquid plant, which has a design capacity of 340 million standard cubic feet per day. And then we have the Escravos gas plant. We have the BRT 1 and 2. And we go on Nido gas, Oredo, LPG, Nigeria LNG train 1 to 6, Greenville train 1 to 3, and these are some of the gas facilities we have. We have a lot of them, but we just pick up the key ones that are operational to show you that, yes, we have a lot of gas facilities. And we have so much interest also in this because we have about 24 licenses to establish gas facilities. We have a license to construct, so which means they're already under construction. And of course, we have these 13 that have license to operate. The next slide, please. So this natural gas to domestic. So what we have here is our natural gas production. Where does it go? We said certain percentage of it goes to gas to power, which is goes to power sector, and we have the gas to gas-based industries, industry that are gas-based, and then we have gas to commercial. That's heavy industry that use gas to power their operations. And then we have gas to Nigeria LNG, which is going straight. And then we have gas for gas export through West African gas pipeline. So these are all the gas production where they go. And a lot of industries and power sector, like the Gencos, are taking bulk of it. The next one is just showing you just a slide. Next slide is just about our LPG consumption versus LPG production. And you can see LPG production on the left side in blue, more like going up, and then the consumption is tracking it. What we have in LPG is also has to do with infrastructure, production. Next slide is also about the sources. Who are the producers of LPG? I'll have a line of them at the bottom, which I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the gas processing facilities. Next one, of course, is a very important slide. Next slide, please. This one, CNG. We have discussed gasoline, subsidy, pricing, supply, demand. But what is very important and close to Mr. President is what is the alternative for our low population. You have to make alternative. If petrol is too high, I will remove subsidy. And by the way, removal of subsidy, if you all noticed, at the removal of subsidy, the prices spiked. Some places you buy it 1,400, 1,500. But again, just like the telecoms, when the supply is there, then competition comes in, and now you see the prices going. And that's why initially when we were talking, we said Engr is selling at 885, 860, 800. Yes, this is all about competition. That's what happened in the telecom industry. Before you get a SIM card, or the old time when you had the 090, how many people had mobile phone? And then when it was liberated, it was difficult to get a SIM card. Sometimes some people got SIM card 50,000 naira. And eventually now you get it for free because you are going to go to the line. So this is all what, and then now Mr. President said, what is the alternative? And the alternative is compressed natural gas. And that's why the PCING, that's a Presidential CNG initiative. I know they were here last week. They made their own presentation. But because we are the regulator of midstream and the gas fall under midstream, that's why we thought also we should actually re-emphasize the importance of CNG and the milestone reached and the progress being made and continue to be made because the work just started. So the PNZ role is to incentivize adoption of CNG for mobility. And what we did as the NMDPRA, which is why we are bringing it up, is how do we encourage CNG utilization is also to address the pricing. So part of our mandate is pricing of natural gas, and we have different price for CNG, for mobility. which is lower than the price. Not that we are putting any subsidy on it, but we are trying to encourage utilization because it's a very small amount relative to what I said about what the power sector requires or what the Nigerian LNG requires. Is very small amount, and that small amount can make a very huge impact to our population regarding transportation, particularly for general public transportation availability and the pricing and the competition. So the next slide, also, I don't mean to repeat what Michael said, but Michael's numbers and our numbers were different, but they all correlate because PCING is working, we are working, and we are working hand in hand with PCING also in order to regulate some aspect of it, particularly the safety part of it, and the gas availability, and like I said, the gas pricing of the compressed natural gas. So if we can jump to the next page, page 32, the next one again, please, because I just summarized that one. In the gas sector, of course, some of the areas that will also propagate the utilization of gas is what this initiative called the Decade of Gas. And it's an industry-wide, multi-sectoral collaboration for deepening the utilization of natural gas. And this Decade of Gas, membership is all the producing companies, whether you call it Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron, NMPC, the regulators, NUPRC, NMDPRA, Nigeria LNG, and they're being coordinated from our office in the Jabi area. That's where the coordinating office is, and they're being represented by all the stakeholders that I mentioned, and even more that I have not mentioned. And this is just it's just industry-wide, and just to focus on that. And the Office of the Advisor to the President on Energy is also part of it, and then they coordinate part of the policies. And some of the policies of Mr. President were actually, helpful to the Decade of Gas program. So the target is like a 10-year target. Decade of Gas, it started from 2021 to 2030. And the Decade of Gas is to market improvement of gas from 8 billion standard cubic feet to about 15 billion standard cubic feet per day, and supporting to unlock several critical gas infrastructure projects for improved gas supply. So we focus also on all the operating IOCs and other investors, like Seplat and Co., to invest in gas. So this one is just to focus on gas, investment in gas infrastructure, just like our own in NMDPRA, we have the MGDIF, which is the Gas Infrastructure Fund, to de-risk some of the high-risk areas so that we collaborate with some of the investors in order to deepen the utilization of gas and infrastructure deficit so that we can make it happen, because we have about 2009 trillion cubic feet of gas, proven gas reserve. But what is important is to bring it out. And this is part of the program that we need to bring out. Then, of course, we have the domestic gas market development, introducing linked pricing framework. So we do the pricing for gas, like I said. And part of this, of course, is to encourage investment in the area, because if the price is good for the producer or investor, it's also good for the consumer, then of course we reach that equilibrium. Next page, which I will just present, is the outlook ahead for NMDPRA. So one of the outlooks we just also in line with the provision of the PIA is to have national strategic stock. National strategic stock is a system where we have volume of various products stored as national stock in case of any shock. And this is similar to what they have in the United States, where they have natural strategic stock located in different locations of the country, which is called Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. You know, that's what they call the petroleum stock for defense department. They use it for defense department because of in any case, if there's any requirement or any shock or any international embargo, they have their national strategic stock to cover for a number of days or months. I think about 3 months of sufficiency in case of any shock, like what happened in the 70s when the OPEC and the Arabian countries put oil embargo on America. So from that time, they woke up to say, look, we have to have this national strategic stock so that in case of any international geopolitical problems, then we'll be able to have sustained energy. And energy is very critical. And that's why we believe that once we have the liberated energy system in the country, we have emphasis on our energy security, that this country will also survive, because without energy, food security will be affected, national security in terms of human security will be affected. So energy security is very, very paramount. And once we have that covered by having access, easy access, national stock, national strategic stock, competition, liberated market, I think we can address that, our national energy security, which we should not be taken for granted. We are sitting back because we don't have that issue in this country. But like I said, when you look back in the 70s, when Americans were confronted with fuel embargo, then you can maybe go back to YouTube and check and see what the country, the advanced country of the world went through. And we are a developing country. So we should not take our energy security lightly. And we seek for all your support and cooperation in order to ensure that we do not tamper with our energy security, whether by sending wrong information in the public domain that will raise some panic or misunderstanding of the process and policies of government towards that key issue of our energy security. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Engineer Farouk Ahmed, for that very comprehensive presentation about the outlook of the Nigerian oil and gas industry. And in concluding, he stressed that it is very important that you talk to us and you ask questions so that you go out with correct information. The essence of this presentation is to ensure that the right information is what the public gets. Different narratives are out there, but it is very important that we get the correct information. And this is the man in charge of downstream and upstream regulation. Downstream and midstream regulation. He's telling you this is the way it is. I think I can say you should forget the other narratives you might be hearing out there. You know, he has also told us about the gas situation in Nigeria. Presently, he says we still import about 30-something percentage, and incentives are there to make sure that in a few years to come, the Nigerian decade of gas was instituted in 2021, I believe. So maybe by 2031, we should be looking at Nigeria really going on gas. Let me not talk too much. I believe we have people who have questions to post to the CEO on account of his presentation. Usually we'll do it in 4 batches, or 2 or 3 batches of 4 questions. Who takes the first shot? The chairman of the State House Press Corps first. Then we have a lot of ladies today. Arise 2, Von 3, Son 4. The first batch, please. Please pass the mic to Anuli.
Good afternoon. Sorry, good afternoon. Yeah, sorry. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Dr. Anule. I work for AFP, the French news agency. See, I just want to find out from you, on April 12th, Owando PLC reported 3 sabotage attacks on his pipeline in Bayelsa. And they claim it affected the Tapa Bar as crude oil, pipeline. And then I remember too that in March, there were similar attacks on pipeline facilities in Rivers State, which led to Mr. President declaring a state of emergency in that state. I want you to first confirm the attacks on the Owando gas pipeline and also tell us specifically what are the impacts of these 2 attacks on production levels. And again, if government is investigating to unravel the perpetrators of these incidents. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Adesua. I work with Arise News. Just going through the statistics you have reeled out this afternoon, sir, it shows we're still heavily reliant on imported PMS, despite the push for local refining. But you didn't give us why exactly we are still heavily reliant. And sometimes, I think about twice, if I recall, you mentioned that Warri Refinery operated for 6 days. Do you want to clarify that? Are you saying Warri Refinery has shut down? And there's also this Operation Whirlwind, I think you mentioned in your presentation as well, customs, recovering illegal exports. What's the impact and the cost of that to the economy? And finally, if you permit me, the effort you have made to increase production. You also mentioned the local sale of crude. I believe you were mentioning the Naira crude supply deal. Want to know the update on that. Thank you very much.
Subsequent questions, please. If you ask 4 questions, our presenter is at liberty to answer any one of the 4.
Thank you.
Please go ahead, Vaughn.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Temitope Mustafa, and I report for Voice of Nigeria. So I want to ask a question about the issue of global oil pricing, the continuing volatility of crude oil pricing. Where does Nigeria stand as regards the revenue projection of 36 trillion naira? What is the risk for the 2025 budget in this? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Juliana Taiwo Baloyen of the Sun newspapers. Sir, I don't know if I missed it. I would like to get an update on the 60-liter ban of fuel tankers on the road, effective March 1st. I'd like to know where we are with that. How effective has that been?
Please come again. Make it clearer.
The 60,000 liters ban from March 1 of tankers on our road.
Okay. Sir, please go ahead and answer the first batch of the questions,
Okay.
please.
Thank you very much, sir. So, Madam, on the Owando, you say attack on Owando facilities. Well, I will just slightly comment on that because crude oil production falls under the purview of NUPRC. But what I can tell you that from the OPEC report, that Nigerian crude production has dropped to 1.4 million barrels per day, and that is the effect of those kind of vandalism on our pipeline. So that's my take on that. And then the Office of the National Security Advisor called for a stakeholder meeting of all the security chiefs and operators I think last Tuesday or so, last Thursday, and this issue was discussed amongst other national security issues. And I believe they are also taking it up with the military and other community leaders in order to address this situation. Now, the next question is on imports. Well, if I understand your question, madam, we need X. Maybe, for example, you need to buy 1 sack of rice for 5 days. And then you go to the market, or you can only secure half of it. You have children in the house that you need to feed. And you must feed them every day. Do you feed them and stop when it stops? Or do you go outside to another village to buy the second half of bag of rice? I think we will go to other village to buy the second half in order to feed those children. Basically what I'm saying, if we need 50 milliliters per day in this country, and the local refineries combined, both NMPC and Engr refineries can only provide X amount, obviously you have to go and source for the difference. And that's why we do the importation. I will do it professionally because we look at the supply-demand balance before we do. We don't just give import permits anyhow, but we do it on the basis of performance by those key suppliers in order to guarantee supply. The next question on Port Harcourt Refinery, we mentioned it very clear. Obviously, the refinery came on stream. It was running, producing gas oil, naphtha, and kerosene, but they were not producing petrol or gasoline. So at a point in time, they also had some leakages in some of their units. And for safety reasons, they had to shut down. And that shutting down maybe is what, I gave the status of the completion, which I said was 88.91%. So obviously, the refinery is still under maintenance of those facilities. But again, some areas, they're broken into areas. Area 1 is 100%, Area 2 is 92.2%, and Area 3 is 88.91%. So obviously, what is saying that these areas are completed, but overall, the refinery itself is about 88.9% to mechanical completion, after which maybe they'll come up. I don't know when they will be coming up, because I don't want to give you time because I'm not the contractor, neither the owner of the project. Now, the other one about the customs, because of the concern raised previously when we see a lot of diversion or smuggling across the border due to pricing differential, the Nigerian Customs, the Office of National Security Advisor, NMDPRA collaboratively set up this team to be going all across the border towns or border areas and use their own intelligence to address this anomaly. And I can tell you, you must have seen, or some of us here must have seen on TV, where the customs have been impounding some of these products by smugglers. And that's served as a deterrent to some of them to drop this illegal activity. The last one I can see, they say, so crude supply, I can remember the last question. Crude for Naira, okay, sorry. The crude for Naira, madam, you know you are on TV now, you saw it now. You saw, you saw what the Minister of Finance said about crude for Naira. So I can't say much, but it's very clear. Thank you very much. Then the third question here was about price. Okay, sorry, the crude oil volatility. Well, madam, this is, you know, the market is very, like I say, very dynamic. And it moves, especially with these current American policies that are inconsistent. You know, President Trump will say one thing, and tomorrow he changes his position. But of course, he has his own strategy. He wants to scare everybody and then say, come to table and let's talk. But he succeeded in some countries say, hey, we want to talk. But the Chinese are still holding back. And that is one of the major economic power. And that's why it's driving the market left and center. And what does this say for our own budget? Obviously, it's, if the price remain down against our forecasted price, it will affect our budget. But that is for Minister of Budget and National Planning to address. But what is more worrying is also to see our crude production going down, because this one is localized. I mean, if we address it, then but the international pricing is something that we cannot like get hold of and say we want it this way, because it's market-driven pricing. Then the fourth question is about the 60,000 liter truck. Yeah, what we did, we looked at the historical trend, and when we also looked back to like 5 years ago or so, when Mr. Pashola was Minister of Works, there were a lot of engagements with the transporters in terms of the size and the weight of some of these trucks. And there were a lot of engagement, and I got to a point where they contemplated reducing the weight of some of these trucks. But it didn't have much traction. But because of the incessant accidents that have been happening, we thought it was prudent for us as a regulator to call for engagement in order to address the issue. And we participated, there were stakeholders, all stakeholders, relevant stakeholders were called, including the truck owners and truck drivers, to discuss a way forward. And it was collectively agreed that we should not entertain, from the depot point of view, from the depot point rather, any truck that is in excess of 60,000, because some were 70, some are even going to 90. So if we didn't have if we didn't put a brake, you can see a lot of trucks carrying heavy, and they are also damaging the roads, which you and I use, especially for intercity travel. And it was all agreed. Obviously, there were some pushbacks, but you expect it. But the engagement is continuing. And we said, let's start from the point of loading, rather than road safety stopping trucks on the road, which is also a risk on itself. We said from the depots, no depot owner should load any truck in excess of 60,000 liters. And that's where we are as of today. Thank you very much.
Okay. Number one, nation. 2, Punch. 3, FIFEN. And Bloomberg. Nation first.
Good afternoon, sir, and everybody on the My name is Bola Jogundele, and I write for the Nation newspaper. This has gone on for long. Like people will say, Nigeria does not really have a fixed amount of crude that will produce daily. Of course, that we do not have a recognizable quantity of crude that will produce daily. You've talked here, you have talked of the sources where we get them from. What they will say, that is not the exact number, that we do not know. You are about the most qualified person that should be able to tell us categorically, this is how much Nigeria produces every day. One. The number two, sir, it is part of it. It's part of it, sir. Is it possible for Nigeria to arrive at stability? You know, we talk of attacks on facilities that have brought down. Can we get to that point where we will not be afraid of, okay, there will be a day when somebody will go to attack something that our production would reduce? Can we get to a point of stability? Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Angbulu. I write for the Punch newspapers. DJ, I would like to take you back to a narrative last month about Nigeria supplying petrol to Niger Republic, which has been debunked by your agency and other relevant agencies too. But I want to put the question back to you. Is Nigeria willing, if it comes to that, is Nigeria willing to play big brother to Niger Republic by supplying petrol to them? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Festus Fifen. I report for Ben Television. There is a cliche in Nigeria that is strange to some part of the world. When you want to buy petroleum products or after buying, you ask your friend, how is their pump? Is their pump good? And everybody wants to know, because most times, even some of the known ones, I don't want to mention name, they will shortchange you, you wouldn't get what you pay for. When are we going to see a Nigeria where 1 liter of petroleum product will be 1 liter of petroleum product? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ruth Olurumbi. I wanted a clarification. I write for Bloomberg, sorry. I wanted clarification on what you said about licenses. For instance, you said that Dangote Refinery has license to construct, but does not have license to operate. What's the difference between the two? Thanks.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Any other question? No, I think you have one. So let's just take these two and we know that we're clear. Okay. Yeah.
My name is Umar Aliu. I report for Code Radio International. Sir, during your presentation, you said we have about 502 kilometers length of pipeline across the country. And I can remember in 2022, the then MD of NNPC said they are going to privatize the pipeline, meaning it is going to be handed over to private individuals who are then going to secure the pipeline and then charge NNPC for transporting oil. Is that still in the pipeline, sir?
Thank you. My name is Tony Ailemen, sir. I just wanted further clarifications on the number of licenses you have actually issued for operations for refineries, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I go to the number 5 questionnaire. They say crude oil production and pipeline, attack on pipelines, whether there will not be any attack. I think this also falls, crude oil production falls under UPRC, but what I know, because we're also part of the whole value chain, is all, it takes you and I, as responsible citizens, to also address that. What I mean is that it takes the security agencies, the community leaders, the youth, the government, the local government, and everybody in the stakeholders to collaboratively agree not to succumb to any criminals attacking our pipelines. You go to local government, they are stakeholders, state government, traditional rulers, youth, all my companies, whether they are IOCs, NMPC, NMDPRA, NUPRC, all of us have a responsibility to ensure that we protect our national assets. And until we do that, we should not be pointing fingers. I think if we can do that, it will address this serious criminality. Now, the next supply to Niger. If you take Dangote Refinery, they have maybe in the past supplied, what I can tell you, they supplied aviation cargo to Niger Republic. And there's nothing wrong with that, to be honest, because it's market. Just like Dangote Refinery can put on the ship to Europe, they can put on a truck to Niger Republic. So yes, if we get to a point where maybe all of our refineries are operating, we'll be net exporters. And we will not discriminate about where it goes, so long the revenue inflow is into Nigerian coffers. So yes, it is possible. Then the next one is under dispensing of products at petrol stations. It's a major issue. And what NMDPRA has been doing is to have like spot checks on some of these petrol stations. Because we have like a measure where we just go to any dispensing pump, we say of a liter, say pump me a liter. And we see is it a liter or not a liter. But it's something that we've been doing on the spot checks both in Abuja, Lagos, and other local areas. And some of those stations that we find culpable, we either shut them down, or we've sanctioned them, or we penalize them, or we shut down that particular pump that has problem. But again, it takes collective efforts. So please, if by any chance you also experience that, please, it's good to pass that information so that we can get to that particular marketer or station and address it. It's a really major issue that we have now, especially when the price is no more subsidized. So people see incentive to do that. Now, the eighth question is on Dangote, LTC, LTO. So we have 3 systems of licensing, and in between we have approvals and authorizations, or permit and authorizations. So when you want to construct a facility, whether it's a petrol station, a gas facility, a refinery, we give you, first of all, license to establish. So you meet those basic requirements before you start establishing, then you get the license to establish. And after a license is established, I think that's when you also go and look for your financing and everything. And by the time you get your financing, your project is sanctioned, you bring your design and everything, just like building a house, you know. Then you get development control to give you approval to start construction. So the same thing. You have license to construct. And ideally, if you're building a house, requirement and it's safe to move in, construct. You put your lights on, you put the water on, you test this, you put your lights on, you put the water on, you test this, you test that. So because they're already gotten everything, they're operating fully. So that's the difference. Yeah, then number 9 question is, yes, is NMPC pipeline network that linked the 3 refineries, for example, and the depots. Kaduna Refinery linked Kano, Gusau, Gombe, Yola, and Jos. And then, of course, the Port Harcourt Refinery also linked up to Yola. Then you have the Ore Refinery linked Benin, Ore, so, and Port Harcourt Refinery also did Enugu, Makurdi, Aba. So these are the pipeline network that we're talking about. All in all, it's about 5,002. Now, yes, there were issue of concession that NMPC was, but again, I don't want to speak for NMPC. So I think I will stop there. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So okay. Sorry. The last one is the refining licenses. You said we offer so far. I think it was in our presentation which I mentioned that in the LTOs we gave 8 LTOs, which I mentioned to you. Arade Refinery, OPAC, Walter Smith, Edo Refinery, the 4 NMPC refineries, all Port Harcourt, New Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna. And those under LTCs, we say there are about 30. Some of them are introduced hydrocarbon, like the Dangote Refinery and DuPont. So they are more ahead, so which means they are on the verge of getting LTO. And then we have, so in total we have 30 LTCs. If we take these 2 out, that means we have 28 LTCs that are under construction now, ideally. Now we have 47 that are under construction. They have license to establish, sorry, license to establish. So that's what we have. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Farouk Ahmed. I believe we have. Oh, what's the question? Okay, so there's one question online. He's asking if NNPC is the sole importer of PMS.
NNPC has not imported a liter of PMS in 2025. Therefore, they are no more the sole importer. In the past, when the subsidy was on, NNPC was the sole importer because other marketers, if they had imported, they would not collect subsidy from government. So NNPC was the sole importer. But then NNPC, like we showed in our chart, gradually started to cease importation. And by January this year, they completely stopped importing PMS for themselves or for the industry. So yes, NNPC is not the sole importer of PMS anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. Before I hand over the microphone to Mr. Bayo Ononuga for a vote of thanks, let me also introduce members of the presidential media team who are here. By the right of Engineer Farouk is Mr. Bayo Ononuga, the special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy. Seated next to him by his right hand is Mr. Sunday Dari, the special advisor to the President on Media and Public Communications. Seated next to him is Mrs. Linda Akibe, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Strategic Communications. And by the extreme left of Ms. Engineer Farouk is Mr. Ortega Ogra, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Digital and New Media. Incidentally, it was his birthday yesterday. Also sitting on the floor, we have Mr. Tokwe Ajayi, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. Seated next to him is Mr. Tunde Rahman, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media, Publicity, and Special Duties. Seated next is Mr. Aliyu Audu, is Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. And last but not the least, Mr. Abdulaziz, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Print Media. Sir, Mr. Fifen said, the question that Mr. Fifen raised, I want to say something a little bit about it. He said, this issue of under-dispensing, probably under-dispensing still goes on because the deterrent is not, maybe it's mild. Maybe we need to make it more stringent. For example now,